I know one of the narratives out there is that people are too lazy to work, that they don't want to do anything, that they don't want to accomplish anything, and people just want to sit around and play video games all day or hang out with their friends or whatever. But that's just not true. I'm not saying that nobody feels that way, nobody behaves like that. But in general, there are definitely people out there who are doing whatever they can do to try to land a job and it's still not working. And you can't tell me that people are struggling this much and it's just because they don't want to do any kind of work. It's because they can't find any work. I mean, even at McDonald's and other places like that, they're going in and applying and they're told to apply online and then they apply online and they get ghosted. People are getting ghosted from basic jobs. And yes, they could go back to school for a few years and become a bedside nurse and probably be fine. Then go get trained and maybe join one of the trades, sure. But if you need some money in a short term, if you don't have months and years to figure out a new game plan to completely reroute your life, what are you supposed to do? And one of my examples of the stories I'm going to share today is a gentleman who is still technically homeless, he said, and applying for jobs. And we've seen these kind of things, maybe not necessarily on the news, but definitely on other people's YouTube channels where people are living in shelters. They're living in tents and they're still applying for jobs, still trying to figure out how to get a little bit of money to get out of the situation that they're in. People are living in their cars, they're living in storage units just to have some kind of roof over their head, to find some kind of way to escape the elements. And they're looking for jobs, they're trying to figure out something and they just can't. There's just so much pain and misery in America right now that more decent jobs would really help and nobody seems to care. Nobody's got the interest, no one has the interest of the average American at mind, at heart, and no one's doing anything to bring any more jobs, and no one really seems to be helping. Everything just seems to be going in the wrong direction. And it's not just this year. The past couple of years have not been good either. But unfortunately, it's not getting better. There's no new manufacturing jobs. There's no new any kind of jobs. And it doesn't really seem to matter who is president because you can't fix a problem you don't address, and neither candidate at the whole election cycle acknowledged the fact that there's not enough good paying jobs. And now we see more layoffs. So it's just more of the same from last year. Things aren't getting better. I don't even know if they're getting worse, but they're definitely not getting better. But let's share some stories around the internet that I found. And we start off with Enoch, who says, "Today I turned 39, still job searching, still technically homeless. Still thriving most days. A few months ago, I called this chapter a surprise sabbatical or a mini retirement. The New York Times made it feel trendy, so I leaned in. The job market right now, brutal. Even companies like Microsoft and TikTok are announcing layoffs while still actively hiring. Talented people are being let go every day. If that's you, I see you. You are not your job. Your skill set doesn't disappear when your Slack login does. I've helped brands reboot their digital presence, shape go-to-market strategies, and connect with customers in ways that actually convert. One thing I've been talking about a lot in interviews is what I half-jokingly call my soon-to-be patented approach, humanizing strategy." Let's pause there. So I don't know all the ins and outs of Enoch's plight here, but yeah, being technically homeless, I mean, what does that mean? You don't have an apartment, you don't have a house, maybe living out of a car, maybe living out of a storage unit. We don't really know. But this kind of thing is definitely happening. And yeah, maybe for your mental health, you could say it's a sabbatical or mini retirement, whatever makes you feel a little bit better, but it's still not going to address the underlying issue here. And I agree that we are not our job. We have to have other things that we identify as apart from, hey, I'm a software engineer, I'm a project manager. But I mean, that's also kind of the American culture. If you ever go to a networking event or you go to your friend's house, one of the first three questions they're going to ask you is, "So what do you do?" Unfortunately, we want to say we're not our job, but like the way our culture is set up, we kind of get identified by the job that we do. So not only would you be struggling to put food on the table, you also be struggling with your identity. So a lot of issues, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally when you're out of a job for as long as many people are. Enoch continues and says, "Too often, partnerships are treated as the or, relationships or revenue, soft skills or spreadsheets. But the real magic happens when you embrace the and. I believe in building real relationships because people outlast logos, but I also believe those relationships should move the business forward. That means metrics, revenue, and measurable growth. It's empathy and execution working together. That's where partnerships shine. He continues and says, "This year, I've worked across time zones and remembered how much I love solving hard problems with good people. Here's what I've learned. You are not your last job title. You are the trust you build, the value you bring, and the results you drive. The pause isn't wasted time. Sometimes it's the start of something better. Wi-Fi is still the unsung hero of remote work. Here's to 39, the final boss level of my 30s, hoping it brings better fits, better opportunities, and fewer spreadsheets with broken formulas. If you're building something meaningful and need someone who knows how to make things happen, whether in person or in the cloud, let's talk. Enoch." And I am 39 years old myself, soon to be 40, and I am very concerned because people are saying that age discrimination doesn't necessarily start at 60 anymore, it starts in your 40s. So we're running out of time to have good, meaningful, gainful employment, and already it's hard enough. I can't imagine how much harder it's going to be 5 years from now. But hopefully I can look young enough. Hopefully I can have my resume and my LinkedIn not show my true age. And hopefully I can have meaningful employment a little bit longer into my 40s. And I don't have to struggle that much, but it doesn't seem to get any better the older that we get. Next, Abigail says, "PSA, this is not a pity post. This is the story, and if my marketing background taught me anything, it's that storytelling is a way to build community. I believe now, more than ever, it is a time to build, connect, influence, and support one another. Most of you won't know this part of my story, but in my early 20s, I faced profound grief after losing a very close loved one. This grief reshaped my understanding of resilience at a very young age. As life continued to throw me curveballs, I learned that grief isn't just about losing a loved one. It's about losing stability, identity, and direction. Fast forward to the end of 2024, I unexpectedly fainted and suffered a concussion. This forced me into a period of rest and recovery while taking medical leave. The week I prepared to return to work, I was told my position had been eliminated. Life decided to throw me yet another curveball. The weight of sudden change, loss, and uncertainty immediately arrived, and I knew it was time to prepare my resilient toolkit. This week, as Microsoft navigates another round of layoffs, I know many of you are experiencing these feelings. To those impacted, let's connect. Let's pause there. This is the true essence of corporate America. These companies do not care about you. They have no empathy for you. They have no compassion for you. And if you're in a job right now and you're like, "Oh, my company loves me. My company cares about me." Or even better yet, "This place wouldn't run without me." I pray that you're right, but I don't think that you are. They're looking for any kind of way to get rid of you. They're looking for any kind of way to lower their cost, which the easiest way to lower their cost is to lower their spending on labor. They're trying to outsource your job. They're trying to eliminate your job. And I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but a lot of these companies just want to use you up, get all the information and knowledge they can get out of you, and then move on to someone who ideally is cheaper. And hey, if you've done a good job documenting everything you've done, if there's been enough people who have worked with you to understand what you brought to the table, then why can't they have someone else execute your vision? Why can't they have someone take off with your original strategy and execute it? Maybe they won't do it as well as you did, but maybe they can at least get a lot of the things that you thought of, a lot of things that you designed, a lot of things that you treated as your baby, your child, and run with it. These are the things that companies are trying to do. And these are the things that companies are successfully doing. And they don't care, this sounds terrible, but they don't care if you lose a loved one. They don't care if you're going through financial hard times. They don't even care if you're technically homeless. They don't care if you just had a baby. They don't care if you had a medical issue. These companies will not be loyal to you. And that's a sad reality I think we all have to accept. So that tells me that we shouldn't really share too much with these companies, with these organizations, because we don't want to give them any fuel to let us go. "Oh, I'm pregnant." You tell them that during the hiring process, you think they're going to hire you? No. Especially if they have any kind of maternity leave, or, I mean, you wouldn't be pregnant, but paternity leave. You say, "Oh yeah, I have my wife and my wife's pregnant." No, don't tell them any of that stuff. If you have a medical issue, yes, you have to take the time off, but as soon as you get back on your feet, you probably need to start looking for a brand new job because they're like, oh, well, this person has a medical issue. Maybe I don't want to have them here forever. Same thing as an athlete, right? If you're a basketball player, you injure yourself, then you're all of a sudden damaged goods. They think, oh, well, this person's not going to be around too much longer. Maybe I'll try to trade them when they come back or trade them whenever I can because I don't want them to have any kind of repeated medical history. You don't want to be looked at as injury prone, right? If you are a woman and you have a baby, these companies don't want to say, oh, well, this person had one baby and I had to pay for their maternity leave. And what if they're now starting a family and they have 2 kids, 3 kids, whatever? Maybe this is not someone I want to invest in long term. As far as losing a loved one, I mean, yeah, that's awful. But some people never come back from that. Maybe they'll say, all right, well, this person isn't going to be able to be the same person because they have grief, they're going through therapy, and it sounds awful, it sounds terrible. But these companies look at you as a number, a cog in the wheel, and that wheel is going to keep turning even without you there. So even if you think that this place can't run without me, that is not a good attitude, and it's just not true. Now, will the company perform as well? Maybe not, maybe not. Will someone execute your vision as well as you would? Probably not. Will someone do the quality of work the amount of hours, care about this organization as much as you did? Probably not, but they don't care because good enough is just enough for these corporations, especially if they can cut that salary in half or even lower than that if they can offshore it to another country. Next, Matthew says, normalize negatively reviewing employers that put you through the application, the assessments, the video interview, the in-person interview, and then tell you that you'll hear back in a few days, but then ghost you without a decision, wasting your time and mental health thinking you had a new opportunity. I'm beginning to think no one is actually hiring. Application after application, interviews, then nothing. Wildest job market I've ever experienced. And Matthew is absolutely right. And as we talked about in a previous episode, unfortunately, the job market is terrible. It's awful for those looking for jobs. But is it broken? I don't know if it's broken. I think it's behaving as designed. I think this is a feature, not a bug. They want you to be miserable and not try anymore and just give up because then they can say, oh, we're trying to hire someone. Nobody wants to work. So I guess we can see if we can hire someone in the Philippines or in India since we can't find anyone who wants to go through 7 rounds of interviews, who wants to constantly be ghosted, who doesn't want to do free work for us to be able to implement, who doesn't want to take childish games as assessments to see if we're smart enough to do the job. I don't know why no one wants to do any of that stuff. These are the games that these employers are playing. And I don't know all the different sites you can look at. You can let me know down in the comments below. But I know if there's a company that I'm looking at, I can see a lot of these medium-sized companies at least, or bigger, well, there's a tab on Glassdoor where they tell you the interview process. Like, you know, they maybe do an assessment. There's a couple of rounds of interviews. So maybe for the small and emerging companies, maybe not. But some companies at least do have that on Glassdoor. So you might want to check that out before you do too much applying or too much effort in the hiring process. And really, I haven't seen one example of someone who's done a take-home assessment or free work and that has resulted in them getting a job. Usually it's like, oh, I did all this stuff for them, you know, built a case, built a presentation, did a little bit of coding, and 10 times out of 10 in my research, that hasn't led them to a job, but that's led to free work and good quality work for the employer because they're not just hiring an intern to do work anymore. No, they're getting free work out of people who are doing these job applications. And if we see that, you know, hundreds, if not 1,000 people are applying to jobs, imagine how much free work they're getting from qualified, experienced professionals. It's really should be illegal, but people are still doing work for free. So these companies are going to continue to keep doing things that gets them free work. And if people keep doing it, and no one pumps the brakes and says, I'm not going to do free work for you. I mean, you can hire me, you can contract me, but if people are going to still do this stuff for free, what incentive do these companies have to stop? And I agree, it's a wild job market. All the hoops that you have to jump through are just absolutely insane. And people are really struggling right now. People are living in shelters, people are living in tents, people are living in storage units, people are living in their cars. And to some people, that's their only option. They don't have family to live with, they don't have friends to live with. So people are just trying to survive anyway, and they're dealing with this job application, this job hiring process. And people are getting laid off after having babies, after returning from mental health breaks, or suffering the loss of someone. They're getting laid off right away. And people are wasting precious time that they don't have because unemployment is only so long and the prices of things keep going up. And the only thing not going up is your salary or your chances of landing gainful employment. But let me know what you think about these stories down in the comments below. Talk to you later.